Communication 1064, request an update by the Civil Defense Administrator and the Public Works Director on the island-wide coordination of the lava flow emergency from Councilmember Margaret Willie, dated September 12, 2014.
Thank you. May I have a motion? Ms. Willie?
Yes, motion to approve. What's the number?
10-6, Communication 1064.
Communication 1064.
Thank you. Thank you. Second by Mr. Iligan. Ms. Willie, you have the
Yes.
floor.
I think my point for bringing this forward was just to clarify that the lava flow issue is not just a Puna issue, it's a county issue. We are the body that is the policymakers, and I think that we need to, be brainstorming and listening to everyone and be supportive of, not just supportive of the administration, but what are the issues? I think one of the things for me, when I went down, one of the Thursday nights and listened to the presentations, was, well, what are the questions that we need to be thinking about? And that was really my starting point, whether it's, access, whether it's what are the different insurance issues, what are, just everything in each of the questions, and how do we address those in the short term so we keep people, I think what Frankie Stapleton said, not necessarily frighten people, but I think there's also what is our leadership and how can we ensure that we're getting information and get the best ideas from the public and from everyone. And it is, you sort of look at, for me, you put hot chocolate sauce on ice cream, it starts going this way, and it goes that way, and it moves all around. And that's so, and there's no sense of timing, but just when I went down there that night, and, I'm from North and South Kohala, and, sort of the fears, and some people saying, we're closing our business tomorrow. That's it. We've made a decision, this medical facility, we spent $150,000, but we're done, and.
Thank you, Ms. Willie. I understand you want to speak, but, oh, good. Mr. Oliveira, we're going to give you the opportunity to talk about your stuff. Okay, thank you.
I do want to speak after.
Yeah, you'll be next, sir. I promise.
Well, good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity to share some information with you. I apologize to the audience.
Darryl, excuse me. Bring it down,
Sure.
yeah, because you're reading off of your stuff. Thank you.
And I apologize to the audience that, I didn't have a PowerPoint to put up so they could see, but basically I'll walk through the slides that have been provided to the council members. What you see on the first two pages are basically images of yesterday and today's observations of the flow. And probably the biggest statement I can make here is that we've seen so many changes in the flow's behavior since it started back in June. But historically, as it's come through till today, it's at different points pose different threats or possible impact to different communities, starting with the Ko'ohi homesteads, and then as it continues eastward, then obviously to the Pahoa community. What you see in those two pictures are, again, images of yesterday and today with descriptions in the first image about what we're calling our breakouts. And as you can see, they look like little fingers of lava, again, blackened pads that move off of the side of the main flow and then are advancing in a more northward direction. So not moving anywhere closer towards the highway or the populated areas, moving more laterally, but it's expected to eventually turn and come downhill. Again, the areas of steepest descent are following the path at which water or anything liquid would actually flow downhill. The second picture is what we saw this morning. And the significance to the second picture this morning is we're seeing more activity along the flow front. Nothing substantial, nothing really aggressive or moving out quickly. It's just the presence of lava burning and active burning along the front edge, which indicates that what happened over the last few days, as the scientists at HVO had explained, is that we saw a period of deflation at the summit, and it was expected that with the deflation, they normally see a decrease in activity at Pu'o'o, and that might have transitioned or translated into a decrease in activity down at the flow front. Through Saturday through Sunday, we saw almost no activity at the flow front. I mean, it looked, for a descriptive term, it looked cold. because there was no burning, no evidence of any lava breaking out along the edges. But this morning, we saw activity returning, but again, nothing active, and as they describe it, very sluggish. So we're still very optimistic that the flow is, moving slowly, not posing any current threat to any communities. But the one thing for certain is that the source hasn't changed and that there is no indication that the eruption is going to stop. The next pages going forward, the next slides, are some of the priorities as far as the missions that we've identified going forward in an effort to try to provide the community with much normalcy as we can. So the first one being the road access. The Department of Public Works, State Highways, they have already established alternate access through both the Government Beach Road as well as through Railroad Avenue. Railroad Avenue being a 2-lane, all-weather surface, packed gravel, that we are able to accommodate buses as well as large commercial vehicles. The Government Beach Road is a single lane with pullouts, which means traffic could move in two directions provided that the drivers are courteous and allow each other to pass. But again, it won't be able to accommodate large buses or large commercial vehicles. The other route that's being worked on as we speak is the chain of craters. The county has been maintaining really close communications with both state highways and the national park to work towards an alternate route through the chain of craters, the old road. And as we speak, we have state highways surveying crews out there surveying the alignment for the chain of craters road based on the original footprint that it had, trying to find that original footprint and basically survey it out and map it out. We also have County Department of Public Works equipment and personnel down on the Kalapana side, which is the state portion of the highway, already doing some preliminary groundwork in anticipation of moving forward with establishing that alternate access route. So road access is critical for sustaining the community. In the community meetings, as well as when we go out and just move about in the community, it's been obvious that many residents would like to stay, provided that basic services, basic access, and fundamental life safety issues can be addressed. And that's where the mission priorities come from. The next priority we have is electrical power. HELCO is committed to identifying as many solutions as possible to provide for uninterrupted power service. That includes trying to develop, and they're prepared to implement protective measures for some of their critical infrastructure, looking at ways to redistribute or reroute power distribution lines, as well as partnership with PGV on identifying the possibility of PGV becoming a regional power generation source if we had to regionalize the power in the area. The next utility that we're working closely with is our Department of Water Supply. Although the vast majority of that area is on catchment, there are still large subdivisions and community or residents that rely on the county water service as well as the commercial center in the Poa town. So the Water Department has also identified alternate well sites or alternate sources to provide water on either side of any cut in their main line. And that's to, one is reestablish the Pohoa well, which is right behind the Pohoa High School, as well as to possibly tap into their Mountain View source to provide the water source and distribution on the Ainaloa or Kiao side of the break or cutoff. On the issue of public safety services, again, to provide for the basic fundamental government services on the side of isolation, both the police department and fire department have already identified their contingency plans to provide for an adequate workforce to provide for those services and sustain those operations. And that includes, we have already informally pushed up a request for assistance through state civil defense, which is a normal process we work through anytime there's a declaration or a proclamation for an emergency. We make the request for assistance up through state civil defense, and in particular for the National Guard assistance. So that RFA or request for assistance has already been put up, specifying what we would like from the Guard to provide for safety and security when the time comes. So that, again, resource has already been identified, they're pre-positioned and ready to mobilize. We're obviously going to, pull the trigger on that when the time is appropriate and make sure that we have the resources on the ground ahead of any impact. With regards to communications, Again, we're working very closely, and Helco is more or less our lead on this because they own most of the infrastructure in which the Hawaiian Telecom and other telecommunication systems rely on or piggyback on. So just as Helco is looking at rerouting power poles and lines along Beach Road to provide for an alternate distribution system, they're also working with Hawaiian Telecom and the cellular carriers on any opportunity to partner to share that infrastructure to provide for uninterrupted communications as well. And with the cellular carriers, they've also identified their cellular on wheels or COW systems, which would provide for mobile repeater sites that would, again, provide for uninterrupted uninterrupted communication support. On the matter of healthcare, Department of Health, as the lead for this particular mission, is working very closely with the Bay Clinic, the Puna Community Health Center, and even with the local pharmacies to identify solutions of providing access to routine healthcare and healthcare services to include possible pharmacy access as well. The other piece to this, and we've also reached out as part of that request for assistance through the state, is to put the state's disaster medical assistance team or DMAT team on notice in the event we would need to set up a triage site or a critical care facility on a portable basis that can be done in the community as well. And lastly is with our school or DOE and school system. The Department of Education has identified and developed a response plan for if and when the highway is affected with the redistribution of students to try to minimize the impact on families and to try to provide and sustain a quality educational program for the students. With that, we've assisted them with requesting portable structures. Those portable structures have arrived on island. They are being set up at the Keao School to increase the classroom capacity at the Keao campus to provide for additional teaching and classroom space for the students. So a lot of things have been going on. A lot of things are in motion. One of the most difficult things, and as we've been very clear with the community, this is going to be a very frustrating process going forward. As we've seen, the flow has taken so many different starts and stops. Its rate of movement has changed frequently. Right now, it's to the point where the scientists are saying it's too early and too difficult to forecast with any certainty what's the expected time or date at which this could play out and eventually affect residential areas or even the highways, just because the rate has been so inconsistent. But we're obviously going to be planning for the worst case scenario and hoping for the best, and that's what's in play right now, these different action items that we're working on. So welcome any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Oliveira. Mr. Iligan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, I just want to say, Administrator Oliveira, you show so much devotion to the people. I don't even know how you are finding all this energy. You've been going above and beyond, because not only civil defense is now on the radio. I mean, not now, but it's been always on the radio. You're going out to the community and seeing them face to face. And I know it's not only you, it's also all the different directors in the different departments in Hawaii County. And also the mayor has been showing a great amount of leadership through this time. And it's been such a hard time. And I want to say you have made it a lot easier during this difficult time. And I know the hardest part about this lava flow situation is that, as you mentioned, when we started doing our updates, we were following it since trying to compile all the information and then just give it out to everyone all in one. And we started September 13th, and now it's we've been doing that every day. And what I've noticed was that in the beginning, there was no projection. USGS didn't do any projection. Then later on, they actually drew it out and projected it. And then it just stopped. Then we don't even know where it's going. It's such a stressful situation that we don't know. And at the same time, it stopped. However, the summit's still active. So we know it has to go someplace. And Michael, your concern, I've asked, and people have relayed to me, they want to stay in Puna. We want access. We want those roads. we're just limited on our choices. And we have railroad, but if the flow keeps on going down, it's just going to cover railroad, beach, and what's our only choice? And that's chain of craters. And we did this last week or a week and a half ago, is we sent letters to all the federal delegation because I wanted to make sure that they were aware. And I gave them a call, tried to reach out to each one, and I reached some. But one of the things that I did notice was that civil defense was already on that. The mayor was already on that. It was pretty much me reminding them. And one of the other things Administrator Oliveira also mentioned was that request for assistance with guard. I followed up with like General Wong, tried to contact his office, and come to find out that I want to go through proper process because I don't want to mess up any other process, and come to find out that they've already gone through that route and trying to get specialized, because one of the concerns I had was that if we activate the guard, do they have the necessary skill of police work? Because I was a guardsman and my technical background was not policing, and I was worried that they were going to activate these guys for emergency management without the police skill necessary. That's necessary to be able to do that. And come to find out, they do have that skill. And so as I'm going through this, I'm trying to understand how everybody's feeling in the council, because what can we really do? Well, there's actually, of course, a lot of things we can do. And the biggest thing is getting the word out there. Like Puna.org is one method where you can get help, be a volunteer, donate. It's all into one site. And what the mayor did regarding the situation is that he hired contracted Janice Boltman to be in charge of all the volunteer coordination. And one of the things that we learned from Estelle was that we needed to figure out where all these help is, who's going to coordinate all this help. And of course, self-defense can't do everything.
Thank you, Mr. Iligan. Mr. Kern.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, when you got appointed to the director, I knew that you were the right guy for the right job. And I said, you said it here, it's about being prepared, and hopefully you don't have to do those things, and here you are, and thank goodness that you are here, and thank goodness that we have the administration that we have, and the tenacity that I see is coming out with you and the mayor, DPW, everybody. It's amazing. It's frustrating here because you guys are doing what you can do, and then like Mr. Iligan said, it's about awareness, and Puna is great. We want to do something more. But it's seeing Kalapana and what happened there. It is so unpredictable, and you just never know whether it's going to go right, whether it's going to go left, whether it's going to come back over. What you think was POW is still going, and it's just a challenging situation. Hearing, Michael, from the appraisal standpoint, that makes sense, and that is true, and it's going to affect us on the county level from a revenue standpoint as well, and we need to be able to do something about that. Shoot, if it was a water flowing, it'd be such a different situation, and we could build a bridge over that. We could build a bridge and lava could take it out. But what it is though is I think we do need to be committed to having our roads open and reopening up our roads. And I don't think there's anyone here in the government that isn't committed to doing that. It's just so unpredictable how and when is the ultimate big question. I was going to use some CRF funds to help on, I'm not going there, so don't worry, to help on a project in Pahoa, on a medical-related area. Through discussion with Renee Siracusa, we're going to redirect some of that to potentially help with a critical component of this. I won't get into it because that'll be coming up on agenda. But it's those little things that I think are going to help and make that difference in putting the resources that we do have in the best possible areas, which I know you guys are already doing. So, wow, Kalapana it's never stopped.
Yep.
So again, I thank you, and I just pray that everybody can do the very best. I don't even know, it's lava. It's how do you handle the lava flow? So I yield, and I will do anything I can.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for all that you do for our island, and now, for the people of Puna. And I just want to say the health and safety of our people first. That is of utmost importance, and with no disrespect to Mr. Garbarino, but what we can learn historically from what has happened around the island, from our, the people in Puna who have gone through similar situations like this, and how they came together as a community to survive. So when I'm talking about when you're isolated and how we can come together and barter, and we did it without money when we had strikes, but we survived. The most important thing is that we took care of our families and our children and the health and safety. And I commend the administration and Ms. Oliveira. Thank you so much for all you do. And yeah, it's a touch and go type of thing. We don't know what's happening from moment to moment. Anything can happen. That's just how life is on this island. We've experienced so much. I know growing up, we've experienced a lot, and it's still happening. And, there's a lot of newcomers to this island, and I would say go look at some of the historical values that we learn from the people of our past and the children. And I like what, Tiffany Edwards-Hunt said, look at what are the positives that can happen from this. Don't concentrate on that. Don't look at the glass half empty, but let's look at it as half full. And how can we come together as people? Because if we survive as people and we're safe and we're healthy, that's the ultimate goal. So, and we have each other. So, and things can grow from there. So, thank you so much for all you do for us and keeping that culture and lifestyle alive. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Poindexter. Mr. Iligan, your light. Oh, wait, Ms. Eoff.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you, Mr. Oliveira. And I'd like to thank the administration and all of the many people in the administrative staff that have been going well beyond the call of duty to be there back you up and help people understand what's happening. One thing that I wanted to ask, I know there's a lot of assistance that can come from the federal government and even from the state and stuff. And maybe our small contingency relief that we have, we're all, I'm sure, more than willing to put towards whatever efforts you could help us to identify, because I, for one, would like to contribute whatever I could. But sometimes, just by the definition of emergency or disaster or things like that are handed down to us from the state or the federal government, may not actually be applicable to, like, say, a slow-moving disaster, as opposed to one that's, happens without us being able to prepare more than a day or so, like, say, a tidal wave or something that we can predict more. So I was just wondering if there's any way to adjust some of the benefits that are going to come our way to tailor it more to a type of a disaster that we're looking at, or I don't know if it's possible, but even with insurance and just federal funds, that I think there's so many restrictions. And, like, say, what I've heard about insurance companies saying if you move from your home, before a certain, time, of it being destroyed, then your insurance is not valid anymore. Or, I don't know. I'm sure there's many situations like this, but, we're looking at something that, you can't sometimes wait till, a 24-hour or a 48-hour evacuation or something, So I'm just wondering if there's ways to amend or correct some of the things that might inhibit us from doing things just because we're looking at something that doesn't act that way,
You're correct in that the type of disaster that we're facing, or the hazard that we're facing, doesn't fit the mold of your typical weather event, tsunami event, because it's something you're watching unfold every day, and it's just very unique. And as an example where we see the challenges with not fitting into the normal mold of things is, with Highway 130, that's a state highway that would be, if and when it's affected by the lava flow, subject to federal reimbursement to recover or repair that road. So technically, we could get some federal assistance to undo the impact that the eruption has had on the road. But to take a proactive measure to, let's say, breach the highway that would allow it to be recovered faster would not be recoverable under the definition of an emergency or a disaster. So it doesn't fit the mold because here we're trying to be proactive and mitigate the impact ahead of time. But yet the impact hasn't occurred, so it doesn't fit the definition of an emergency or a disaster. So I think we'll see changes or the desire to change some of these things going forward because there's some very unique hazards and disasters across the country, this being one of them. But I just want to let you folks know, I appreciate the praise and the recognition, but really it's truly a team effort. I just wish the community could see and feel or experience the amount of support that I get and our office gets from every county, state, federal, private agency that's out there, and even the community, because the community in particular with Puna, with Izell, and now this, tremendous outreach from the community and outpouring of support. As examples with the movement of livestock from Ka'ohe, that was Dr. Moniz and his partner, Dr. Kim, helping the residents of Ka'ohe that were ranchers and farmers move their livestock. And if it wasn't for them doing what they did, reach out, identify pastures, identify alternate sites, again, it's just, the tremendous amount of teamwork that takes place. And like I said, even within the community, people stepping up with, again, help Puna with trying to help find shelter for pets. So much has come out of these disasters with, again, people stepping up to find solutions. And I know there'll be more solutions coming. So again, although you say, thank you to me, it's really thank you to everybody else. I mean, that's working just as hard, if not harder, to get things done. So thank you.
I'm sure it reaffirms most of our feeling about how beautiful this island and the people and the Aloha spirit that lives here is. One more question, and I don't know, maybe you can help me phrase this one too, but if Puna Geothermal Venture, say, isn't able to provide the electricity that it does currently to the grid, what would that mean for the island? I mean, I heard you say there may be an opportunity for them to provide electricity to the community, immediate community, but would the lack of that, what they provide to the HELCO, to the grid right now, be any kind of a problem to the rest of the island?
In our discussions with HELCO, it shouldn't pose a problem if they lost the generation capability of PGV, but the PGV was able to support that region. Obviously, that would mean a reliance on other generation operations that they have in place. Again, they are trying to identify how do we sustain a community that might be isolated? How do we sustain the greater community, which is the whole island? I mean, if you just think about how the interdependency of the communities, a large portion of the workforce in South Kohala is from Puna. If they are isolated and unable to commute, you're going to have businesses that will be hurting without employees. It's going to be an island-wide impact with this event, if not statewide. So it may appear to be a regional issue, but it truly is a community-wide impact.
Well, again, just wanted to commend you for, I mean, you have to think of so many things, and you seem to be very cool under pressure, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Iligan, it's your turn.
He went through it.
Oh, wait, Mr. Iligan, we have Ms. Woolley.
If he wants to go first.
Okay, that's fine. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do want to add on to Councilmember Eoff's question. I talked to Helco, and I think they try to have on backup 51% of their power. So if they lose generation, they would activate those on backup. But I do want to ask, and what are, like, how, when I was talking to Helco, and the paper also stated some of their creative solutions regarding trying to cover the poles, so because they think that lava is kind of like water, where it would just go on the side, it won't push it. And well, I wanted to ask you, other than railroad, government beach road, and chain of craters, what are some ways we can provide access to Puna if it was cut off that are creative? And
Well, you heard earlier about the bridging concept, and this, as recent as this morning, we had conversations with the Corps of Engineers, and we're trying to refine our requests for their technical expertise and assistance. Depending on a lot of different variables, like the width of the flow, how it moves, whether or not it'll widen and spread out, breaching Highway 130 and allowing it to flow on its natural course based on all of the analysis that was done by HVO as far as the steepest areas of descent and those what they call graben lines or channels that the flow normally follows, the natural terrain and topographical features. If we are able to breach the highway and allow the flow to proceed under its natural course, then there may be opportunities to bridge that gap at some point. Restoring Highway 130 would be a critical priority to trying to get some normalcy back to that area. We've looked at other, suggested routes. There have been suggestions from members of the community that there used to be a road that went from Kalapana Black Sand subdivision up to Volcano, but that's right across the active flow. So again, although we can't find those roads, we know that if you just followed its directional path, it would not be a likely or viable option. Looking at the Poiki boat ramp area, what capabilities and capacities it currently has, or its limitations, whether or not that could be expanded to provide for some seafaring resources to come in and out. Again, it has its limitations currently. We asked the Corps to also give us some, preliminary assessments. What would it take to expand the capacity there? But anybody that's ever either used the ocean down there for recreation activities, fishing, whatever, it's one of the most dynamic ocean areas around. With changing conditions, it can make it very difficult, if not dangerous, to bring a vessel in and out of that harbor. Even we tried to find if there were any existing plantation airstrips that used to be in operation. They're all since overgrown or non-existent. Right? So it's trying to find as many solutions to provide connectivity, knowing that when we throw out the solution of chain of craters, that solution is only viable if the eruption doesn't turn and go in that direction as well. So again, it's trying to identify as many possible options to provide that connectivity and transportation connectivity for that whole region if it becomes isolated.
thank you. I also ran into the same problem that you mentioned regarding federal assistance. And as you well know, the governor makes the request, and then the president makes a declaration for public assistance or individual assistance. And like you said, this disaster hasn't occurred yet. And that was the hardest part. And that's what I explained to the federal delegation. When I spoke with Congresswoman Colleen Hanabusa, I asked her a question after our in-length discussion. What would Dan and Noi do in this situation? And I figured it was the right person to ask that question. And she told me that because he's such an influential person, he would get the military involved right off the bat. And I would like to see the military more involved. I know right now the disaster hasn't occurred and the request hasn't been, I know you're just waiting to pull the trigger, but right now I feel like there's homes, they're already evacuating. These homes are empty, and we need more presence of police, military, some way to make sure everybody's safe. I know it might be early, but I feel like the danger's there. And in my gut opinion, and I just feel like the police, we need to get more presence, and also we need to get military help. There's one more question I have, but I know I'm gonna run out of time. This time I kept my composure. I lost track of time the first time I spoke. But I do have one more question, and this regards to the private roads. It's because I spoke with the boards and they have concerns, and I just wanted to ask you, but I'm gonna yield at this time and give Councilmember Willie the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Iligan. I'm going to call on Ms. Willie next, but since we are now well within the second round, after Ms. Willie, would anyone have a problem if I asked a few questions? Because if it triggers more comments or questions, I'm not going to stop this. Okay.
Madam Chair?
Go ahead.
We have a couple of other committees, and we have administration waiting, and
Okay.
I wanted to see if maybe we could somehow talk about that, if we're going to decide to maybe recess them or something like that, so we could let people know, because who knows how long
Okay.
this is going to take.
All right. This is important. All right. So, wait, Ms. Willie's, do we need to take the recess now and let them know what's going on? Is that what you're suggesting?
Yeah, I'm suggesting that we come to a conclusion of what we were going to maybe do with those other committees, because we're going to have to open them up and do the recessing,
Yes.
but as long as we knew, we could then notify the folks that were waiting, because I see Mr. Sitko still sitting out here.
Okay.
I don't want to take a recess.
Okay.
We can,
I frankly think we can get through this in 5 or 10 minutes, but I certainly have questions myself. But
I think what Councilmember Kern is saying is that some of the committee stuff, like possibly the Finance Committee, we have 2 items left on the agenda. He's probably suggesting, correct me if I'm wrong, that maybe we recess that to put it onto my next committee, and because we still have other committees to hear from also. So I would be in agreement with that, because I don't want to be so exhausted, because this is important, and that we not have a good discussion that we need to on that 2 items that are very important as well.
And you just explained that much better than I did, and that's the
Okay.
point of maybe recessing those
all right.
meetings. Thanks.
All right, thank you. We'll go on here, Ms. Willie, and then I'll have a few questions.
yeah. I guess one of my issues is really that we do have in place a plan, like if things were suddenly going to rapid. I mean, I can just remember watching Katrina, and it's like moving in, well, maybe it's going to go to Mexico, and maybe it's going to go to Florida. Let's wait and see. And then suddenly there it is, and it's like, what do? I don't have a plan. So I think the way this flow is working, the likelihood is it's going to continue slow and this, and then break out and move, and that we really don't know where the optimal access points are. And we don't know that, but I think also along the lines of Councilmember Ligon, that we have in place, whether it's the military, if all of a sudden we say Plan X, call, it's in place. I also see all the CERT groups. I mean, I'm in contact with the 3 major ones in my district. I'm trying to get them to work together. You're not just North Kohala, you're not just Waikoloa, you're not here. But also, if there's something in Puna, that at a certain point, these are people with expertise. We're doing all this radio training. Presumably, we'll get some of the radios that I got paid for back in May, but or in our contingency. But anyway, that if suddenly it's, we need these CERT people. We're suddenly having this happen, and in this one area, we just need it quick. That all of those sort of, what are those different other links? And it's always, when you're connecting and linking to people, it's, do I do what I need to do at this minute, or take the time out to set this up? And I just think, to the extent that you can utilize us to say, Margaret, yes, I want you to be ready when I call you to have that, or CERT, or that you call Bob Hanson or whoever, or Tony, that those type of things are in place. Another issue, and I'd like Russell Rudderman to come up, I have a question for you, is in terms of like temporary housing. I think some of the questions that have come up to me were some temporary housing, so that you don't have to feel that you have to hurry and compete for what little is available in Hilo. I really appreciate sort of this, how you categorize these different issues, and it sort of gives me a focus, access power, these, each of these different ones. And I think, with Michael, right now, we're committed to access. We're not saying we want an island in an island, but we don't know where and best, and we don't want to waste a lot of money planning for a certain access when that's not going to be. So, I think without taking any vote, we're certainly there, and I think all of the proactivity and the breakaway, where we certainly don't want to create a lake of lava on one side of 130 that's then, flowing down the sides. So, taking all that brain power. So, and also just with talking to Bobby Jean, and I do have, afterwards, if anyone wants to look at one of these maps and really see, where these pictures are, and where this is headed, and where these little lines are sort of the gully areas where it's anticipated, how that works, if anyone wants to look at it afterwards. But, taking into account that that we don't know yet where the best access is, and that is certainly a priority, and we're not doing an island in an island, and maybe there's some place that's going to go under a tunnel, and there's just going to be an easy place to put a road in, and one certainly doesn't want to spend the money otherwise. And certainly, if with Bobby Jean, if when looking at this flow, is it going to hit the transfer station? I mean, there are some big issues, but I think that if people, if we're encouraging, stay where you are, continue your life, and be supportive of the community and businesses there, and what can we do that helps encourage that? But at the same time, how can we say, and if suddenly something were to happen, here's some of the things the county's doing in terms of housing, so that you don't have to feel you have to compete for what little there is left.
Okay, I'm going to give you one opportunity, a very short question. You called Senator Ruderman up
and
here.
Just if there's any particular comment, if you would just please put a pot together, so if we need any funds for this, we know we can depend on you. Thank you.
Please, Senator,
yes.
Please identify yourself on the microphone.
Hi, I'm Russell Ruderman. I'm State Senator from Puna District. And thank you for the question. I had asked if I might be allowed to speak because I misunderstood the process of taking these
I'm going to give you the chance.
two subjects at once, so I apologize for that. Well, regarding the state pots of money, one of the things I wanted to ask the council to consider is to please give me some specific proposals to take to the legislature in response to this lava crisis of what we're asking them for. Obviously, this will be a time when there'll be some sympathy for our needs here on the Big Island and in Puna. Well, not obviously, hopefully.
Yeah.
But let's think about what we need from the state. I mean, money, yeah, sure, money, but money for what? What do we specifically want? What are we going to ask the Department of Health for, Department of Transportation for, et cetera, et cetera? It would be helpful to me to have a real clear ask that you folks on the County Council can help me formulate in the next month or so. If I may continue a couple of things, one of the needs that I see as a possible urgent need that I don't hear being talked about is Lower Puna might need an air ambulance, a helicopter. You know, it's great that we're going to have a clinic on the other side. I commend PCMC for what they're doing, and that's wonderful, but there may be a need for an air ambulance as a permanent resident feature of Lower Puna. And along the same lines, I hope we can consider some sort of emergency harbor above and beyond what we can do out of Pohoiki. If I can comment on a couple other aspects of the situation, I want to join all the voices that have commended Mr. Oliveira on the excellent job that he's done and the county administration in general. And I wouldn't criticize a single thing that they've done. I just want to add to what's been done, though, however, a different perspective that I don't hear very much, which is there's a lot of hope still alive. You know, not a single person has been hurt, not a single home has been burned, yet we have schools closing down, we have people moving out, and I'm not sure that the doom and gloom is all necessary. Even if the lava continues, we might be okay out there with the assistance from everybody, and there's a lot of people planning to try to be okay. So it's not Civil Defense's job to project optimism. I recognize that. It's their job to get people prepared, and prepared for the worst and hope for the best, as has been said. They're doing a very good job. But it's got to be somebody's job, and for right now I'll take it on as mine, to project the fact that life will go on, and don't write Pahoa's obituary yet. Don't write Lower Puna's obituary. It's very troublesome to hear people doing that. This is a slow-moving lava flow, you know, compared to, let's say, what happened in Japan last week and this week. And there's a lot of possibility that we're going to be okay, and it's very important to support that possibility and to project that schools closing down is a tragedy to me, you know, and businesses are beginning to close down. Some of us are digging in, but some are moving, and I feel that that's really a shame, and I think all of us need to project the very public possibility that we're going to be okay. We're going to be okay if the lava crosses the highway. We're going to be okay if it doesn't cross the highway. We're going to be okay anyway, and it's not a disaster yet. It's all just thoughts and fears so far in preparation. But please give Pahoa and Lower Puna a chance to survive and to thrive. And that's my main point. If I could briefly address the election issue, and I won't take much time, I do want to really commend...
No, Senator, I can't in the middle of this one.
I'm sorry.
Please go ahead and take a seat. I am going to let you talk.
I don't want to waste you folks' time.
No,
thank
you're
you
not
very much.
wasting anybody's time, but the election will have to wait for a little bit. Okay. Thank you. All right, I believe it's my turn, so I have some questions. Now, I understand, Mr. Oliveira, I commend you, your staff, all the department heads, all of the departments that are working on this so hard. So thank you. And you know, you got my support. I want to just expand a little bit on a couple of things. As you know, I've talked to some of your staff about, and I'm sorry, Senator, that I'm going to have to go back to emergency preparedness. But we are going to, if the worst case does happen, there will be people that are going to be displaced, and we've got to put them someplace, and Hilo can't hold them. So one of the things I talked to your staff about is alternative housing other places, and how do we achieve that? Did he show you the map? Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So that's what I would like to talk about that for just a second, because I am not familiar with the other areas of the island if they have a place like Forest City that already has water and power into it and could be relatively quickly, established as a relocation site. I've been hearing some things about Mauna Kea State Park. I'm really not comfortable with that one, but for the council, if you are aware of a subdivision in your district that already has power and water and vacant land that we could use, my request would be to present that information to Civil Defense, because we may have some people that are going to have to move out of that area. It is true that most of Puna is working over on the Kona side of the island, and it would be a severe impact if they couldn't get to work, and they may choose, instead of coming up Chain of Craters Road on a daily basis, to catch a bus up in Volcano, that they may choose temporary relocation. So is that a reasonable request for the council, that if we could identify places like Forest City that has power and water, is that something reasonable, or is that kind of a waste of everybody's time?
No, because if we look at people being displaced, the first action we're going to take is provide the emergency shelters. But it has to transition into something that's more long-term and permanent. So, all the ideas are worth looking into, so we have options to consider.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. So, council members, we do have something to do. And may I suggest you speak to your local engineers? They might be able to guide you in this if you're not aware of something. The other thing is, this is a request. When you go to your website, you've got the lava flows. It's all great, and we can tell what's going on. It's very good. I would request that you guys, not you, because you're not getting enough sleep, I can tell by looking at you, but that somebody put up a map showing the roads that you're grading off, because those of us who are not from your area only have a sort of an understanding of what you're doing, and maybe I have a little more knowledge, but so what? But the southern route through Kalapana and the eastern route up, so that we can see where the roads are that you've worked on and you're finished and you're ready to go, and whether they're 1 lane or 2 lanes or with pullouts or whatever the deal is. I think that would be helpful to the community. Sure. By the way, I saw your picture this morning on the news. Of course, you were in PPE, so I couldn't tell which one of the firefighters was hosing down the lava, which did not work, by the way. So you were mentioned on the news specifically by name. Anyway, another question I have is about these. I also heard this morning, the illegal visitors going into Kaohe subdivision on a tour to see the lava, and I don't know where. Anyway, they said these people are illegally in there. They have no right to be in there. Can you comment on that a little bit?
Sure. Well, when we established the restricted access into Kaohe, it was for several reasons. One is it was to support that community with needing to move livestock, to initiate any voluntary evacuation up front. Initially, when you look at some of the pictures we have in images, it was at one point projecting this path of coming to Kaohe. So we need to provide for their safety and security. So with that, the restricted access. The other thing is that the area where the lava flow is at, if you ever have an opportunity to fly over it, you'll see how dangerous and treacherous that area is. It is not flat terrain. There are a lot of cracks. When we talk to some of the local hunters that hunt in that area in the state lands, they'll tell you where they've had to rappel down to get their dogs. It's not safe territory. This is the same area back in 2002. We had a firefighter looking for a lost hiker fall 100 feet into a crack and suffer some severe injuries. So it's just not safe to be in the back there trying to view the lava. So for the safety of the residents and the security of the subdivision, as well as for the safety of anyone trying to access that area, we had a restricted access. So we're working on tightening up the loopholes that are allowing some of these activities to take place that just aren't safe for anyone to be doing. When the lava is in an accessible area that will allow us to help provide ease of access, safe viewing, we will do that. At this time, it's not in that area.
Thank you. I think it's important that the public know that we don't need all these people coming into these subdivisions. Okay, one thing that has to do with the relocation, if it has to take place in the large numbers, I'm talking anywhere from hundreds to thousands. The concern that I have is, and I discussed this with your staff, and your staff is the one that actually thought of this, not me. I said, the emergency declaration by the mayor and the governor covers Puna. But if we have a mass relocation, it's going to severely impact all these other districts, all of our districts, where we might get relocation requests or needs for more than just the short-term Red Cross stuff. And his suggestion was that the governor and the mayor, of course, the mayor would initiate this, the mayor needs to possibly expand the emergency declaration to the entire island. And doing that, and I was thinking about it, and the sooner the better, because we don't know what's going to happen. Do you have any thoughts on that, or have you and the mayor discussed this, and what's going on that issue? And then I'll yield.
Well, on the expansion or expanded, which would be an amendment or addendum to the initial proclamation, is very easy to do. We've already had, just to give you an idea of how easy it is to do and how we've already been discussing it, in the discussions with the improvements to the Chain of Creators Road, we considered adding the Ka'u district because part of Chain of Creators is actually in the Ka'u district. But in looking at the map, looking at where the sections of roads that would, of that road that would need the improvement, it's obvious that it's in the Puna district. But again, those are the kinds of conversations we have on a regular basis with Corporation Council, with the mayor, on whether or not we need to expand the area of emergency, and which might become an island-wide impact. So it's not a difficult process to pursue.
I just want to make sure it's done before the event. Mr. Iligan?
I have a lot of questions, but I'm also concerned about our recess. If we could just take care of that maybe, or they're good? Okay. Oof. Okay, so I do want to, go ahead.
I just have one request. I do have to call upon a community meeting tonight at 6:30, so
Okay,
if it's
that's it.
possible, I mean,
Let's at least
So I just have two things I want to mention.
for Dr.
Correct.
Rowe.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
First, regarding where I left off. So, on Railroad, the affected subdivision is going to be Hawaiian Paradise Park, Hawaiian Shores and Rec, and Nanavale. Most of the roads in Nanavale's county that is used for the emergency route, but Hawaiian Shores and Rec and Hawaiian Paradise Park are private roads. And as you well know, you heard this several times, is that you have these homeowners paying these dues to maintain these roads. And on HPP, compared to Hawaiian beaches, it just goes through Hawaiian beaches. But HPP goes, there's two things I've heard. One is they're planning to go from Railroad up to Maku'u, and those are the barricade the rest. However, what I'm also hearing is that they're not gonna, and all the traffic is gonna spread in HPP and go out to Highway 130. I wanted to ask you, and you might not be the right person to ask, because it might be Director Lee from Public Works, has that been determined on whether or not you are going to keep to 7,000, what they're saying is 7,000 vehicles? Are you going to stay in Maku'u, or are you planning to barricade the unpaved roads or the side roads? What's the plan?
there's actually several things being considered, and you're correct. Mr. Lee would probably be the most appropriate person to ask that question. But what he has shared at the community meetings is the sooner we can move traffic off of the unimproved roads onto paved and back onto 130, the better for the flow of the traffic. And one of the things he's also really good about pointing out is if when we're using railroad, that's meant that 130 has been cut off. If 130 has been cut off, then the traffic coming from the south on Highway 130 would be limited to just the traffic out of Ainaloa. So there should be less traffic coming from the south on 130. They would interfere with the ability for the traffic to merge from Makuu onto 130. So it's coming up with traffic flow devices, whether it be signaled intersections at Makuu or other striping and other I'll say mechanisms that would allow for the flow of traffic to have the least impact on the Paradise Park community, as well as all the other subdivisions. So I know he's been meeting with the various community associations and road associations to try to identify or hear what their suggestions are and identify solutions. But the goal is to try to minimize the time that the commuters will spend in these unimproved roads and get them onto 130 as quickly as possible.
Okay, so there's two things I want to say on this issue then. One is that on Makuu, this is just for your information, and you're probably aware of it. If an emergency vehicle were to go there, there's no place to pull over. If possible, to make another route for just the emergency vehicle, so that way they can get to railroad as soon as possible. The other part is, we don't know how long this is going to happen. Could be months, could be even years. Whether or not signs of any damage on Makuu, if you are planning to keep it on Makuu or on part on Hawaiian beaches, what to help with alleviating that cost?
And same, I don't want to speak for Mr. Lee, but he has been identifying and sharing with us that we recognize the impact this will have on a private road. And if there are things that the county could do to minimize that impact, maintenance, improvements, even enforcement on that road, those things are all being discussed to try to, I'll just say, take some of the burden off of the road association or that private road subdivision from having to deal with.
Yeah.
Mr. Iligan, is that it? Because we need to release the...
That is it. I do want to mention something that the elderly aging did that wasn't mentioned. They went door to door in Pahoa and asked people, do you have a plan? Do you need help? And that was just amazing that they went door to door to make sure everybody's taken care of. So I just wanted to mention that's one department that wasn't mentioned that helped out as part of the team.
I'll say there's a lot of that happening, even with public health, trying to identify special needs clients that if they can try to assist with relocating them before any impact. So a lot of things are being done unbeknownst to the public or to all of you, and we apologize for that, but it's a huge effort being made to try to minimize the burden that's going to be faced by the community.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Oliveira. You're doing a fabulous job. Get some sleep. And so, all those in favor of filing communication 1064, please say aye. 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 Any opposed? Fine. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Okay, the next issue is